What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. Joining me to break down Monday Night Football, Week 15. The week is over. Packers win. Very interesting win for the Packers. The Green Bay Packers over the Rams. Ryan Wilson, John Breech. What's up, fellas?
Breech, since Brinson didn't do the read again, with the first pick, had our Monday podcast this afternoon with Rick Spielman. So check that out wherever you get your podcasts, Pick Six Podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. It's awesome. Slightly more awesome than that game that we had to endure on Monday night. That was a tough one. I'm going to be honest with you.
Just to be clear, Breech, I like to say hi to y'all, get to y'all as quickly as possible, and then do the read. The last two times, however, Ryan Wilson has decided to.
I'm just looking at the rundown.
But okay, you know what? I'll change the rundown and add intro. Hello to Grumpy Wilson and Christmas.
This is like
Spirit Breech. Above that,
I'm just the innocent kid involved here. It's like when you yell, you don't yell at your kid. You tell your kid, "Well, tell your mom I made the dinner correctly." When the mom's right there, and you could simply just tell her, like, that's what you got. You're talking through me to each other.
Absolutely. It is a really good podcast. You should check it out. You can watch it on this YouTube channel every Monday at 2:00
Eastern time.
1 p.m. Central.
Eastern time. You watch Rick and you watch Rick Don't Call Over Wilson on it's a very entertaining podcast. I like it.
On the reg.
If Wilson's name was Morty, the podcast would be called Rick and Morty.
Yeah. And if my name was Ryan, it would be called Rick and Ryan.
I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
If your name was Ryan, it'd be called With the First Pick.
There you go. Anyway, just wanted to get that out of the way.
Thank you. Green Bay Packers beat the Rams. The final score, because Aaron Jones decided not to go to the end zone at the end, probably proving pretty expensive. You're going to see a lot of didn't advance in the fantasy playoffs because of that. Christian Watson didn't catch the ball. 24-12, Packers cover under hits. A very underwhelming end to that game. The Packers playoff percentages, which is like going to become a thing over the next few weeks, I think, despite what is likely to be a healthy dose of skepticism from Ryan Wilson, shot up from 6% all the way up to
8%.
8.
They got to win out. I think that's their path.
They have to win out, and then they need some other stuff to happen.
Help.
They're not guaranteed to get in with win out. I will tell you that before this game started, I put a little wager down. Green Bay Packers to win, little sprinkle, win the NFC at 100-1.
The National Football Conference?
Yeah.
That NFC?
Yeah. Hurts banged up.
Did you put down more than $1?
I did.
What do you think of that, Breech?
I think you just given the money to me.
Breech
and I could have spent it on Annabelle, and it would have been better spent. I could have bought her Z-Bar.
Well, Breech, does it make you feel better that I also put a bet down on the Packers Bengals Super Bowl?
It does not make it actually makes me feel worse.
Remember, I bet on the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl before the playoffs last year.
But you bet them against a team that had a chance to actually go to the Super Bowl, which was the 49ers.
Right. Well, I mean, the reason why I did it was that these particular odds were pretty good. They're actually 400-1 Packers and Bengals.
Do you understand how odds work, right? Like when they're really high, that means you're going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I put like $10 down.
Tell them to bring me my money.
That's John Breech, by the way. Just giving it to Breech.
No. Look, the point being is, I don't think the Packers looked like world beaters tonight. I don't think they look like a team that's going to dominate by any stretch of the imagination. But I thought the defense played better. Granted, I know the Rams are terrible on offense.
Look, I'm not going to argue with any of that. They just got to win. That's all they got to do.
They have a schedule that they can win out on.
You just got to win ugly, win pretty, win in between, win mid, as Breech likes to say. And then let me put it to you this way. If Green Bay and Tampa Bay are playing in a play-in game for like the NCAA tournament, I know who I'm taking. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Green Bay.
Breech.
I don't know.
Really? This feels pretty easy.
No, it's not easy.
Okay.
It's
It's in a neutral field. It's not in Tampa Bay. They don't have
so even. I mean, they played earlier this season. It was almost dead even. I think the Packers won 14-12. Like it was a bizarre. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say Brady. Just say Brady.
Packers.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Packers win the AFC Championship now down to 60-1. That's a good value.
Well, to some.
The Buccaneers are 15-1. What a joke. Lions are 25-1. So here's the stretch up coming up. By the way, most consecutive wins by a starting quarterback in Monday Night Football history. Aaron Rodgers, 9 straight from 2004 through the present. 2 more to catch Ken Stabler. 3 more, of course, to be the all-time leader.
He has 2 more wins on Monday night than Baker Mayfield has had coaches in his NFL career.
Well, for the Packers playoff hopes, let me just point something out real quick.
Baker's had 7 coaches.
They put a graphic up.
That's not his wins. That's not all his wins. That's his consecutive wins.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Breech.
Well, since you guys are talking about Baker, I could throw in a Baker fun fact, or should I just say what I was going to say about the Packers?
You could do both. It's your night.
For Packers, we'll talk Packers for a bit.
Okay, Baker Mayfield tonight became the first QB in NFL history to start for 3 different teams in the same calendar year.
Oh.
In the Lord's year of 2022, he has started for the Browns, the Panthers, and the Rams.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You better have the answer to it. What's his record?
In those
well, he lost tonight, so he's 0-1.
Yep.
He was 1-5 in Carolina, I believe.
What was his record in Carolina?
I think 1-5 is what I saw. I could be wrong.
Before they kicked him to the curb unceremoniously.
Kicked him out of the Darnold RV.
1-5.
So that makes him 1-6.
Good math. So you have to scramble to find the other.
I got you, Breech. I got you covered.
No, and then last year he went 1-1 in January.
He only played 1 game in January last year.
2-7. What are you talking about? He went 1-1. I looked up the stat.
Okay.
So what's that total?
God.
3 and
no,
9?
I can't do 2.
No.
2-7.
He won 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago with the Rams.
That wasn't a start.
Oh, dang it.
Trick question, Wilson. It wasn't a start, so it doesn't count as a win.
Poor Baker. All right.
Yeah, Baker, 3 different teams. And real quick, all I was going to say about the Packers.
But before we move on, Ryan, would it be embarrassing if John Breech didn't remember that Case Keenum started Week 18 against his Bengals last year in the only other game in January? So actually, it's only 1 game last year for Baker Mayfield.
Ooh, I'll take the L there.
Oh, what a big jam! Wallace took it in his hands and said, "Up and away, Dixie-doo, Dunkaroo."
And Breech, you were so sanctimonious too.
I was like,
well, that's because Brinson said it without knowing. Brinson said it without knowing. And then he quieted up after I incorrectly corrected him because he assumed that was correct.
Incorrect. I was looking at the Pro Football Reference game log and it said did not play. And that's why I said what I said. And I went and checked the actual NFL stat feed because I trust you, Breech, that you said I looked it up. What you did is you looked up the Browns schedule and saw whether they won or lost. You didn't actually check Baker's stats, which means that it was a lazy, half-assed job by you.
Oh my God. Watch out for the irony piano. Doug, get out of the way.
No, that's all of that is incorrect. All I did was see if he started with 3 different teams, and then the stat, and then you started talking more and created more of a stat out of my amazing stat.
So what was it?
So anyway, the stat is first quarterback ever in NFL history to start for 3 different teams in the same calendar year.
Oh, and you know what's fun? Another fun fact? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cleveland Browns 26-14 on January 3rd, 2022. It means Baker Mayfield was also the only quarterback in NFL history to lose 3 games, lose a game with 3 different teams in the same calendar year. That one might hold up forever.
My man can't catch a break.
Poor Baker.
So you're remaining pretty skeptical of Aaron Rodgers making the playoffs, right, Wilson?
Well, I mean, you said 8%. Detroit's in front of them. They're 7-7. Seattle's their arrow is pointing down in terms of the way they played. They're 7-7. But then you have the Giants and Washington who are in with obviously better records as well. So it's a lot of folks to jump in front of you. Even if we count Seattle out, I think Detroit's a problem. And then, of course, even if Washington sort of makes their way out, the Giants are going to be there. So, and by the way, the Packers have to win the rest of their games.
Yeah.
So 8% sounds about right.
Well, and that was going to be my point real quick before we started talking about Baker, was that if the Giants win one more game the 6th seed is out for the Packers. They cannot pass the Giants. So then you're looking at 4 teams battling for 1 spot, and that's what it comes down to. And the Packers are at the bottom of that pack and would have to do the most and have the most things go their way to get in. And so that's why it feels just so long shotty. But we've seen crazier things happen.
Tell me what the crazier things are, because you and Brinson say that all the time. I don't know what any crazy things you're talking about. That would be crazier.
I mean, the Minnesota
Didn't the
Vikings
Steelers miss the playoffs a couple years ago because someone missed a field
Ryan
goal?
Suckup, that guy.
Okay, that's crazy. That counts as crazy.
Brandon Staley just had to play for a tie and missed the playoffs in an overtime game in week 18. The Minnesota Vikings came back from 33-0 on Saturday. Tom Brady retired and then unretired in 45
I'm talking about in
days.
terms of like
He's talking about like getting in the playoffs in wild
not just
scenarios.
crazy
But
things. I mean, they're
Ryan
plenty crazy.
Suckup missing a field goal and costing the Steelers a shot at the point. Andy Dalton throwing a 50-yard touchdown pass against the Ravens to put the Bills in the playoffs, and a game that meant nothing to the Bengals.
That was awesome. Okay, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Like crazy stuff just happens all the time.
But those are in-game plays. We need sustained like month-long crazy.
I've got one that we can throw there. Billy, I'm going to give you a photo here to toss up on the screen. Don't look at Slack yet. Just let Billy toss it up, and we'll see if we can find something that might qualify as a sustained success here by an NFL football team that would be similar to what Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. I'm assuming you're going to look at Slack anyway. But look at that. John Breech in 2016 wrote Aaron Rodgers says the Packers can, quote, run the table and finish 10-6. What do they do?
What was their
Ran
record
the
when he said
table?
that?
They ran, well, I mean, I believe it was
Their record when he said that was 4-6.
Oh, okay.
interesting. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I
but if
feel
you
like
say
we
it
could
every
look-
year and it happens 1 year out of 10, then
But he doesn't say it every year.
he says
He's
that.
very careful. He had the relax comment and he had the run the table comment. And both times he came out with comments, they backed him up.
Did you hear what he said after this game, by the way?
He said it pretty chipper.
He was in a very good mood, and Lisa Salters goes, you got 3 games left, all against teams above 500. And he stops her. He goes, one of them is 500. And I was like, yeah, I was like, wait, you know what he's talking about too, right?
Yeah.
The Lions are 7-7. It was like very clear that he is aware of what's on the table. I think if they go to Miami on Christmas Day, right, and win against the Dolphins, and they won't be favored, obviously, I wouldn't think.
No, they will not be favored.
Yeah,
They'll be an underdog by at least a field goal.
Yeah, for sure. If they go down there, it is Christmas Day at 1:00. If they go down there and beat the Dolphins, I really feel like they will finish the season 9-8. Now that does not guarantee that they get in. They will need help.
You think they're going to beat the Lions?
I do.
The Lions are scoring 35 points a game. The Packers defense.
It's in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers. Week 18, Rodgers at home against the Lions. I don't have any interest in.
Yeah, but according to you and Breech's theory, the Aaron Rodgers will be sitting on the bench that game because all starters rest in week 18.
No, that's only when something's sealed.
That I'm
when you have
being
nothing to
facetious.
play for.
I was like, what? I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Just a couple of things on this, like the way the playoffs are set up. I want the biggest obstacle for the Packers might very well have been one of two things. One, the Jaguars beating the Cowboys, which essentially knocked them out of winning the division or trying to take down the Eagles and pull off some miracle there in that division. Eagles just have to win one game and they're in. And then two, the Jalen Hurts shoulder thing, because with the Packers locked into the 5 seed, the Cowboys locked into the 5 seed, and the Eagles likely locked into the 1 or something close to that. We'll see how it plays out. There's a very good chance that they won't play their starters in week 18 against Washington and New York. Now, as Breech correctly points out, all the Giants have to do is beat, either at Minnesota this week or Indy at home, or, they don't want it to come down to at Philly in week 18 for sure. But if they beat the Colts at home in week 17, they're in. The Commanders would then just have to beat. They're at San Francisco. I think we've.
No, the Giants wouldn't necessarily be in based on the current standings. It would just eliminate the Packers from possibly getting the 6th seed, so that Green Bay could only be the 7th seed, which means they're in a battle with all these teams for that 1 seed.
Okay, so you're right. Sorry. I messed up. I had the Lions losing at Green Bay to sort of set up my thing. You're right. They would be 98% to get in if they win. If they go 1-1 the next 2 weeks. the Giants that did. So like they would be
right. But if they win a game, it cuts down the Packers' chances of getting in.
Oh, well, also if in the scenario where the Packers are battling for it, the Lions and the Packers will play in week 18 and eliminate one of each other from being able to get that'll help the Giants clinch if they win in week 16, right? I believe that's the case. It's very convoluted right now. It's fun. Are you suggesting I'm wrong, or just suggesting that it's like too crazy to know?
Too convoluted. We need a piece of paper. We need a chalkboard. You need the meme where you have all the strings on the chalkboard and all the possible scenarios. The Charlie Day meme. I think that's Charlie Day.
That's Charlie Day.
Yeah.
That'd be something.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, look, it is complicated. If I'm trying to see how Washington's in a tough spot, man. I mean, Cleveland's got Deshaun back now. I mean, they look better the last each like progressive week. They're at San Francisco first, then have Cleveland, and then have Baltimore, who you would expect might have Lamar Jackson back. So that makes it fairly difficult in terms of.
Is Lamar supposed to be back?
I would think he'd be back in week 18, maybe. No?
I don't know what his prognosis is.
I'm trying to figure out how Washington gets knocked out of the playoffs here. It looks like it's kind of easy to do. If the Packers and the Lions both win the next 2 weeks, and the Giants get a win, and San Francisco beats the Commanders, they are down to like 8% chance of making the playoff per 538. So that's a little dicey there for them.
Breech, do you think Green Bay's getting in? I say no.
I say no. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, last night before we knew what the Packers were going to do, and it felt like I think 2 of us, maybe 3 of us, thought the Lions might sneak in, but it's just, oh man, there's just too much has to go their way. You're talking like 75 things have to work out in their favor, and if only 72 work in their favor, they don't get in, and it's just
it's not that many.
Okay, it's not that.
It's like 12 things. Maybe we'll do a short tour on what the Packers have to do to get in the playoffs. But the last 5 games, the Giants are 1-3-1. Since their bye week in week 9, 6 games, they're 2-3-1 with a win over the Texans, lost the Lions, lost the Cowboys, tied Commanders, lost the Eagles, and a somewhat controversial win over the Washington Commanders on Sunday night this week. So I think they're a better team than the Colts for sure, especially playing at home.
Disrespectful.
It wouldn't be that crazy if the Giants lost the next 3 games.
It would be incredibly crazy if they lost to the Colts team that, as Breech pointed out, gave up 33 points in the fourth quarter 2 weeks ago, took a week off.
But they scored 33 points against the Vikings in the first half. So I don't think it's that
What
crazy.
happened in the second half?
Well, it's not that crazy for the Giants to lose to those 3 teams.
But the Eagles are pretty much in a spot where they win one more game. They clinch the number 1 seed. So we'll say it doesn't happen against Dallas because Jalen Hurts probably not playing.
Well, and the week 16 game or week 17 game for the Eagles is against the Saints, whose first round draft pick they hold next year. So there is some serious incentive to you'd rather go clinch against the Saints than against the Cowboys and push.
That's where I'm going with this. So they win that game. They clinch the number 1 seed. They play the Giants in week 18. They have no reason to win.
Yeah,
they bench everyone.
But it would still be Gardner Minshew against Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes.
Giants could also clinch by then too, and it's a 4-horse race. Seattle. I guess we're kind of leaving Seattle this disrespectfully. A 4-horse race for the Seahawks and the.
I think it's because they play the Chiefs this week, and we just all assume they're going to lose that game.
I didn't feel good about it.
The Packers need a Christmas miracle, Brinson. That's what they need.
I think they just need to beat the Dolphins.
I watched a Christmas Story over the weekend when I was sick. So a lot of Christmas miracles. It's possible. You know what? It's possible. I'm on the Packers bandwagon now. I want them to get in the playoffs.
I wish my perfect world would be Lions and the Packers are the 6 and 7 seeds. I think that would be fun. So now here's the other problem with that Packers bet that I made. If they get it as a 7 seed, which is the likely spot that they would have, you know who I think is probably going to end up? Because if for the Packers to get in as the 7 seed, they have to beat Minnesota. And if that happens, who do you think the Packers are getting in the first round of the playoffs? Probably the 49ers.
What?
No, because I think if they beat if they have to
Yeah, you're right.
get in, which saying if San Francisco wins out, which is not a guaranteed thing at all, but they have Washington at the Raiders and then the Cardinals. I mean, like they'll be heavily favored in all three of those games. It would be Green Bay at San Francisco, which has not been great for Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs in recent years. So, anything else from this game? Pat? I thought A.J. Dillon ruled check for a concussion. He ran awesome in this game. Aaron Jones was fantastic. Christian Watson had a didn't turn around on that little pass late, but I thought largely he was looked good. Romeo Doubs was back. Is it Dubs or Dobbs? I always get that wrong. Dobbs is back. He was very effective. Alan Lazard, man, but like it feels like that. It feels like those wide receivers, and it makes sense that this would happen later in the year. It feels like there's a little more cohesion with those guys, and I thought that the run defense was, especially if they gave up a 15-yard run like on the first play. I thought in general the Packers defense looked better than it had for most of the year. Now, granted, quality of competition and all of that, I understand, but they're going to have to. That defense is going to have to be able to stop the run if they want to beat, Mike McDaniel's run team, run offense, Dalvin Cook, and then the nasty Detroit front five.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Rams kind of held their own here. The Packers could have dominated this so badly that you didn't even need to watch the fourth quarter, but that wasn't the case.
I didn't watch the fourth quarter out of protest, but go ahead.
I mean, you probably didn't make a horrible decision, Wilson. But I mean, the Rams had the ball with 10, 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. If they go down and get a touchdown, then they're right back in the game. They got into Green Bay territory. It didn't happen. So it's going to be interesting because putting Baker Mayfield being forced to make his first start in Green Bay in 15-degree weather when, you don't have a ton of weapons. We know the Rams are dealing with a ton of injuries. Brian Allen goes out on one of the first 3 plays of the game. That's rough. And no one expected the Rams to win.
No Aaron Donald.
No Aaron Donald. Yeah. So this was just, the Packers won. I just wasn't that impressed with the win, I think is all what my ultimate point was going to be here.
Cam Akers was the Rams' leading receiver with 3 catches for 35 yards. I mean, you can't matriculate the ball down the field consistently.
Well, Juju Atwell had like a 40-yard penalty too. That was just one of those short underthrows that he come back on. They got DPI. I mean, I'm not, the Rams aren't good. The Rams are terrible. It's not,
except for Matt Gay.
Matt Gay was fantastic.
Shout out to Matt Gay. As they mentioned on the broadcast, he had actually they only mentioned that he had 1 of 3 field goals in Lambeau history of more than 50 yards with the temperatures under 25 degrees. What they failed to mention is actually the longest field goal in Lambeau history when the temperature is under 25 degrees. He had a 55-yarder in the second quarter, and it was also tied for the 3rd longest field goal ever in any temperature at Lambeau Field. So Matt Gay was crushing it.
We've mentioned this before, so I wish if you guys remember. How many 300-yard passing games do you think Aaron Rodgers has this year?
None.
That's correct.
I was going to guess 1, so I'm glad that Wilson guessed first and got it right. So my guess isn't counted.
You just told on yourself, so you still get it wrong.
He has,
honesty is the best policy.
Let's take a break and we'll come back. We'll talk the Rams real quick. Next. So there was I always think I always read in, maybe I read in this too much, but, I do think that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are better about it. Joe Buck is really good at conveying sort of subtly, and like Tim Nance is great at it too, but I feel like Buck does it more than anybody else, sort of taking the production meetings and what they got from whoever they talk to and sort of passing along, like for instance, they're like, Aaron Rodgers really, they think they can run the table, but then speaking about the Rams, he's like, there's a lot of decisions to be made this offseason. What's going to happen? Does Matthew Stafford walk away? Does Sean McVay walk away? And so I don't know. Like this, I would be really surprised. I wouldn't be that shocked if Stafford decided to walk away, if like his health was just too much and he's made all this money and he can do it like relative without, really like crushing the Rams from a salary cap perspective. And they know they have Baker and they like him and they like, that wouldn't surprise me. It would really surprise me if Sean McVay had his first ever losing season and like just deuced out to the like broadcasting booth. You know, that he just doesn't seem someone who would be like willing to walk away like having failed.
I think Peter Schrager said a few weeks ago, and he's close with Sean McVay, that
Very close.
he got the sense that McVay wasn't going to go out like that. So if anyone would know, it feels like it'd be Schrager.
And I think
there's a podcast with Sean McVay.
There you go.
McVay had said, or there's been a report over the summer, that he was going to stick around as long as Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald and probably Stafford were all there. And I don't think Aaron Donald wants to retire on this note, and Cooper Kupp certainly isn't going anywhere. So it's just a matter of figuring out the quarterback situation.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I wouldn't begrudge Matthew Stafford at all if he decided to walk away. You know, if you deal with all these injuries,
He ain't going to the Hall of Fame if he quits now.
yeah, he's still good.
Be a sad day.
So his dead cap is $49.5 million, but that's obviously less if you retire. Didn't we go cover this the other day with Rodgers? If you were because it's not, you don't because they set up his salary for next year at $1.5 billion base salary. His base salary in 2024 is $31 million. Anywho, I just wouldn't be that shocked if that happened. The problem for the Rams is, like, you know, look, I'm not. No one's going to complain because you won a Super Bowl, but it's looking like the Rams and the Saints are going to be giving away some extremely high draft picks.
Yeah.
Well, and since we're talking about the Rams real quick, with this loss, they are officially eliminated from playoff contention as of week 15, because the final game of week 15, that ties the earliest ever that a reigning Super Bowl champion has been eliminated. Do you guys want to guess?
Said, well, it's not the Bengals, because the Bengals haven't won a Super Bowl.
What is it? Is it is it a modern team, or is it like a? I assume. I'll say
I'll give you one hint. It is
2016 Denver Broncos.
The what?
2016 Denver Broncos.
It's an interesting guess.
It's not right, obviously.
Well, Wilson's got to guess. Maybe he wants to guess the same thing because it is right, or maybe he thinks it's wrong.
One of the New York Giants teams.
And Billy. Oh, he didn't put up. He just most losses by defending Super Bowl champion. The answer is the '99 Broncos.
I just the Broncos.
You get half a point. So literally, the Rams just tied a Broncos team that had John Elway retire and then went out in '99 and couldn't do anything. So this is.
Do I get partial credit? I said one of the Giants teams. I came in second.
Like they're on the list. The Giants, the '87 Giants, 6-9. If you can see the graphic on YouTube, but if you're not watching on YouTube because you're listening to the audio, the Rams also have the most losses of any defending Super Bowl champion right now, 4-10. The Broncos in '99 went 6-10, and then there are 4 other defending champs who finished the season with 9 losses. So if the Rams lose one more game, they will hold the record to themselves for most losses by a defending reigning Super Bowl champ.
Can anybody name the 3 quarterbacks who took, and Rod Smith actually attempted 1 pass, but we won't count that. The 3 quarterbacks who played in games.
Brian Griese.
Brian Griese is correct. Age 24, Brian Griese started 13 of their games.
Tommy Maddox.
Nope.
Was Jake Plummer there yet?
Jake Plummer is not there.
Brock Osweiler.
Getting Greasy was good.
No, I knew that he had the unlucky distinction of being the guy to follow Elway.
Basically, Denver's Cam Newton. Chris Miller, 34-year-old Chris Miller, former first-round pick of the Atlanta Falcons, started 3 games for them, and then the last one is just a knee slapper. Like, I mean, 37-year-old Bubby Brister.
What?
Yeah, he's 37-year-old. He played in 2 games, attempted 20 passes.
He started games for them during their Super Bowl season because I think Elway got hurt. In 98.
That is 4 games. And went 4-0.
There you go.
Wow.
Now you try to be disrespectful to Bubby. The dude went 4-0. Super Bowl run. The original Nick Foles.
Yeah.
They had 38-year-old Elway, 36-year-old Bubby Brister, and 23-year-old Brian Griese on that last Super Bowl team. That is.
Meanwhile, I don't think they've been to the playoffs. Denver since 2015. I think is that the year? It's been a minute.
Yep.
As
Have
the kid
not
says.
been since they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going this year with Russ. I could be wrong, but
Are you sure they can't win it all?
they could win out like Aaron Rodgers did a few years ago.
And
they
the Broncos,
they've only finished above 500 once since that Super Bowl. It was that 2016 season.
Victor Garcia
terrible.
comments.
Victor, the saving grace is that game's on Nickelodeon.
You got to read it so people know what you're talking
Let's
about.
hope to God they both get slimed. Victor's comment says, anyone ready for Russell Wilson versus Baker Mayfield Christmas game? Yes. We're going to SpongeBob SquarePants. Patrick Starr is going to be doing commentary. Literally, Patrick Starr is going to be at the game doing commentary. He was on the Zoom call.
Is Patrick the voice of SpongeBob as well?
Right, I like the SpongeBob Patrick. I was like,
I only say SpongeBob because
I was like, who's that?
Because SpongeBob actually grew up around here, and he went to high school with the other art teacher at the middle school where my wife teaches, and he was home recently. So I don't know what his name is, but he seemed like a nice chap.
How old do you think the guy who voices Patrick Starr is?
I don't know, but the guy who voices SpongeBob is late 50s, early 60s.
57.
5.
What?
He's 65.
It's been around.
William, there you go. Bill.
Tom Kenny, that's who it is. Yeah.
Huh, crazy.
Well, if nothing else, they will certainly make that unwatchable game watchable.
From the press release, Patrick Starr will join the crew from Bikini Bottom to offer live commentary throughout the game. I'm watching.
I'm watching that. Absolutely.
Must watch.
And not just because we're employees of the company. So this started SpongeBob started in 99. I guess I realized.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
I mean, these guys have been doing this thing, doing SpongeBob for SpongeBob still do episodes?
I don't think so. They did a movie recently on Paramount Plus. Get your subscription and watch today. But I don't think they do individual episodes anymore. Could be wrong.
Okay.
Look into that, Breech.
I'm on the wiki page, I'll tell you. Nope. Nope. 2018 looks like the last.
There
Who's
you go.
more likely to win MVP, Baker or Russell?
Russell, I feel like our Dave Doran and whoever we're coaching with, we're in the NC State's in the Mayo Bowl, and they do this thing where they dump a big Gatorade bucket full of mayo on top of the winning coach's head.
So
and we were surprised that he agreed to do it. I think that Russell Wilson would decline the slime.
What?
That's why you should bring in Mr. Trubisky to win the award again.
Baker Mayfield would jump in a pool full of slime if it meant they won and he wins MVP.
Yeah,
I think Russell would be. But Russell is clearly bothered by the fact that he doesn't have an MVP vote. I think winning MVP and getting slimed would be not sit well with him. Just a guess. Rams, by the way, 4th pick. If the season ended today, the Seattle Seahawks would be getting the 3rd pick from the aforementioned Denver team. And Philly would be getting the 9th pick from New Orleans. Houston getting the 12th pick from Cleveland. That's crazy that 3 huge quarterback trades and then the Saints trade are going to result in 4 top 12 picks. Don't trade your top 12 picks.
Never.
Well, I mean, the Rams won the Super Bowl, but it is funny. Like if neither of those teams, if they both had their first round picks, and we can get out after this, Denver and LA, they'd be taking quarterbacks.
Oh, LA wouldn't.
We just talked about Matthew Stafford retiring.
They got Baker Mayfield. They're fine.
Sean McVay has been in LA since 2017, and he has never got to use a first round pick.
All right, let's leave on this. They have a 24 first round pick as we sit here. Will they get to use that 2024 first round pick?
Will Sean McVay use it?
Is Les Snead still the general manager in 2024?
Nothing changes in terms of the front office and head coaching staff.
Then no, I do not think they use it. They'll trade back to get more picks because they're going to have such a depleted roster because they have 8 star players and nothing else.
All right. Sean McVay will keep the streak alive.
All right. That'll do it for us. Back tomorrow with the look at some betting trends. Back Tuesday or whatever day it is. And then, of course, we got a bunch of football this weekend. Is there a holiday this weekend or something?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Santa's coming to town, man.
Yeah.
Listen,
2 of the 3 of us have trees to celebrate as much.
Yeah, I heard you're not on the nice list.
I've tried to put my tree in here. It just didn't work. It's like too my shelf.
I didn't know how to put a tree in a room. Okay, that's a good excuse.
But no, you can't see it because it's my
Because
shelf.
it doesn't exist.
I showed it to you. You've seen it.
if you say so.
Ryan, I know that you're really happy about Christmas because who loves Christmas more than the Grinch? For Wilson, for Breech, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later. Bye.